Rebecca McLaughlin-Easton, and this is Business Line, your global business barometer, coming to you from the clouds at the top of the world's tallest structure, the Burj Khalifa in downtown Dubai. Global air travel is taking a hit following the grounding of Boeing's 737 MAX fleet, which was banned from flying earlier this year after 2 fatal crashes.
This has been called the world's most expensive parking lot, with dozens of aircraft stranded at the plane maker's Seattle factory. It follows 2 fatal crashes, one involving Ethiopian Airlines in March, and then there was the Lion Air incident in Indonesia just 5 months earlier. At the time, some analysts predicted the aviation giant, let alone the MAX series, was too big to fail. Boeing has recently announced plans to take a €4.3 billion charge in the second quarter of this year, which would at least partly compensate airlines with grounded MAX planes.
I think they understand that the world has sort of decided that Boeing does bear a lot of the responsibility here for what happened. Now finally taking this proactive step, paying out that money without that being imposed.
Despite the company taking a hit from reduced production of the 737, which is projected to increase later in the year, its shares rose 2% on the news of the compensation. But though the MAX is expected to return to service in the fourth quarter of this year, the aircraft may be grounded longer than expected, as Boeing still faces tough scrutiny from regulators around the world.
Next, the road to a fully digital society is not always a smooth one. And according to the Pulse report, almost 70% of senior executives right here in the Middle East region say that digital adoption and cybersecurity are the biggest obstacles facing their businesses. So what can organizations do to meet these challenges? I caught up with Alia Al-Zaruni at Dubai's International Financial Center to find out more.
The key findings in the Pulse report, which is a report that looks at the senior leadership attitude towards corporate learning and development, is the fact that cybersecurity, big data, and digital adoption or transformation are today at the forefront of all the priorities that senior leadership look at globally, but it's actually much higher in the Middle East, which is surprising. The other takeaway is executive education is still a priority. Organizations believe that the learning providers need to reinvent themselves, reinvent the programs to make sure they cater to the current and future needs of those organizations. So there is still a lot of work to be done.
The study talks about the challenges that business leaders are facing right across the Middle East, but looking specifically at the UAE, how is it faring compared to the wider region?
There is a need to really move faster, and one of the reasons could be we really played catch-up when it comes to digital transformation. Of course, when you have more systems, you will have more data sitting on the internet, on clouds, on servers, and then cybersecurity becomes an issue. You need to protect your data.
How does the UAE specifically compare to the rest of the region?
I think the UAE was able to realize the importance of defining cybersecurity, big data, digitalization many years ago. In Dubai, we have the information security regulations, where all government entities are mandated to comply with certain requirements to ensure that data is protected for everyone in Dubai.
Alia, talk me through the key takeaways of the Pulse report.
They need to really work a lot on the learning and development of their employees. Having all the controls on your system for cybersecurity will not benefit you if your staff are not aware or they don't know how to really act when they are in such situations. It's very critical for an organization to be sustainable, to grow and move forward. But then human capital is equally important. People can actually learn from each other. So we've had this in the DIFC actually, where internal staff are training other staff. We have on-the-job training as well. There is also mentorship that adds a lot of value to help them grow within the organization. And there's also the e-learning, which is becoming more and more advanced every day, and we're seeing actually good outcome from those training sessions.
Impressively, I understand that you started out as a female coder. Tell me, how did that come about? And are there any unique challenges that you believe women face operating in this sector?
I used to do coding for 3 years, and even though I hated it back then, but it actually gave me an edge, and it helped me a lot to grow within the DIFC, because everything that we do today is about automation, whether you're in IT and procurement, in a client-facing department. So Being a coder helped me really structure those processes. When I joined IT many years ago, it was really a male-dominated field or career. But then I can see today, especially in the UAE, a lot of women are actually leading and heading IT departments, which is really interesting.
Finally, data privacy has become a hot-button issue in the last few years. But at what point do companies cross the line when collecting personal data? Who better to ask than Jonathan Lacoste?
So this is AI Everything, and I'm joined by Jonathan Lacoste, who's the co-founder of Jebbit. Jonathan, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. The idea behind Jebbit is that in digital marketing, every website you go to, every email you see, the world is trying to get more personalized, where we want to understand you better. But the data that marketers are using for that is called behavioral data and transactional data. Basically, we're analyzing everything you've clicked on in the past and everything you've purchased and trying to predict what you might be interested in. And Jebbit takes the approach of, why don't we simply ask you? Why don't we engage in a conversation? And so we've built a technology to allow marketers to do that and then use that data to inform their AI and personalization strategies.
What are the ethical considerations for you?
That is the central question. If one technology company is collecting consent when you come to a website, but they pass it on to 3 other different advertising or marketing technologies in order to send you that relevant email or that personalized ad, which frequently there are dozens of companies interfacing in this process, it becomes very complicated in terms of who's a controller and who's a processor.
What are some of the applications for the technology that are kind of just happening or just around the corner that you're most excited about?
Yeah, in marketing, there's very few true applications of AI we've seen at scale yet. And so just as a consumer, one that I'm particularly excited about is the advancements in autonomous vehicle driving. And Tesla in particular has taken the lead on that. Elon actually just the other week announced that by the end of next year, supposedly, they'll have an entire fleet of robo-taxis that are able to, when you park your Tesla and go into work, they'll be able to drive around. And every time I either jump in a Tesla or I read a little bit more about the AI that's fueling that, it's just so impressive how that company is able to send software updates and your car improves over time continuously, as opposed to buying a car, driving it off the lot, and it depreciates over time. So I think there's just so much space for innovation in the automotive industry, and we're just getting started.
Well, that is all that we have time for in this edition of Business Line with me, Rebecca McLaughlin-Eastham. But be sure to tune in again next month for a roundup of the biggest business and investment stories from around the globe. I'll catch you then.